Hey gang, welcome back to Daddy's Garage. Today's video is part 13 in the Mustang Cobra Jet rebuild series. Now in the previous video I went through the process of removing the original rocker panel from the original car and also separating the rocker panel from the complete side that is made or produced or sold by Dynacorn. Now I've gotten mixed results from that video. Some people were very excited about the idea of taking off the rocker panel from the original car and using it. Other people, they were a little more distressed over the idea of separating the new rocker panel from the side panel that is made by Dynacorn. The reality is, it doesn't matter. The owner of the car is making the decisions. So it's up to him and it's up to me to do what he wants. That's as simple as it gets. So if he wants the rocker panel saved, I'm going to save the rocker panels. If he wants some other pieces saved, I'll save those pieces as well. Now we do talk about these things, and we have come to a compromise in one particular piece of sheet metal, and that was the core support. After looking at the replacement piece versus his original piece, we've decided that we're going to use the replacement piece. It's heavier, it's solid, there's no rust pitting. So it is a good choice, a good decision by both of us to use that new core support. So let's continue on with the process. What I need to do is clean up the original rocker panel, and to do that I'm going to use a variety of things. I'm going to use maybe a wire wheel. I'm going to use the SCT tool, the surface conditioning tool. I may use sanding discs, a variety of different things, and get rid of the rust. I may also use some navel jelly, rust remover, let's say, and eventually it'll end up with some sort of primer or sealer on the inside. Haven't decided yet which way I'm going to go completely. As you know, the main part of that inner rocker is still intact. There is really nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't hurt to add more material to protect it. So I will probably use maybe some chassis saver, maybe some of the Eastwood internal frame coater, something along those lines once everything is back together. Of course I will do some prep work prior. I will probably coat the inside. You can see the rocker panel laying there. I will probably coat the inside, maybe with chassis saver, and just ensure that it's all, as much as I can, encapsulated. That'll make it easier later on when we want to add some material to make sure that everything's covered. So let me just show you where I'm at with the rocker panel currently. So what I've done is I've straightened out the flange. I've also removed most of the material that was here on top. This was the front section of the A-pillar. I want to keep that tab just as a measurement point. So that's why that's still there. Over here I have the remnants of the B-pillar, again as a measurement point. Now back here, I've already started cleaning this up. I used the SCT tool there, I used a wire wheel, and I've used sanding discs, and you know, other than that spot right there, which is the only one that I can see anything through, the rest of it is pretty decent. Now I'll probably weld that shut just to make it solid again, and if there's anything that stands out that should need attention, I'll weld it and take care of it. You can also see the brass that they used whenever they're bronze, however you want to label it. Whenever they put the panels together, they held it in place temporarily with the brass welding, and then they came back and welded everything else. So to make this a little easier, I put some clamps on my table, and I put clamps on the clamps holding the flange for the bottom half of the rocker panel. Again, I have to get this taken out. Now there's another tool you could use is a descaler, which is like it's a set of like metal rods in a sleeve that go on your end of an impact gun, and you can chisel those out like a chisel gun. So you can kind of chisel at them with that needle scaler to remove some of this material as well. I don't have one of those, so I'm just saying that. There's also a little bit of rust right here, and then just a little bit up front. The other thing that I'm probably going to have to do, you can also see I ran the SCT across this, so all that's fine. Up here, there's a couple thin areas, so either I will weld those shut, or I would just make a new piece right here. I won't cut the whole thing off, just where it's bad, and that'll take care of that whole section. So these original rocker panels, you know, there are numbers. As I said, I can see them right there. There's a date code number. This is, of course, the back side, so it's like a Z4 or something there, 65, and can't read that one, but it looks like a date code. So I'm going to continue on getting that cleaned up, getting it prepped and ready, and then what I want to do is get it attached to the floor pan. So I'm going to just drive on. Just wanted to show you just how good this looks on the inside with just a little bit of time spent with the wire wheel. That was the rusted area. That is just on the surface. There's nothing deep there. In the back, basically I took the little belt sander, knocked all that stuff off. Now I still got to get this corner and stuff, but this is all solid. Everything is good on the inside of this rocker panel. Again, the only repair work is where there's a couple deep pits, as I pointed out earlier, and a little bit of work right here. So yeah, it's going to be nice to have that panel, and you can even see again the stamping showed up a little better after going over them with the wire wheel. So yeah, I like it. Just an observation. The other day I was talking to a friend about this kind of paint here. Like whenever they painted these cars originally, they got more paint up in this area than they did down in this area. So as I'm stripping this is more effort to come off. This down here is coming off really easy, barely even making contact, and it's coming off. So I think he was saying it had a lot to do with the paint gun. If they had back then they had maybe a canister on the bottom, and they couldn't get low enough on the floor, it would actually hit the floor and end up with kind of like overspray on the bottom section. do it this way. Not bad. Not bad at all. I think my battery's dying. That looks like, I don't know, 130 G2. These things are great. I have them on my Amazon page. It's a 3M bristle wheel. I also call it a finger wheel. Really does a good job. That's interesting. That's spatter from the welds underneath them. Huh. Very good. Very good. Okay. Now at this point, I'm going to touch up some of the damaged areas or make a repair piece if I need to, like I said earlier. But yeah, I guess I got to strip that too. But yeah, that's looking pretty good. So as I mentioned, I do have an area right here where there is rust through. There's a couple other pits that I may go ahead and fill in. So I want to take care of that, and then I'll take a look at the other end and see exactly what I want to do to repair it. And what I've done is I've turned on a fan, because this is galvanized metal. You're not supposed to breathe that stuff, you know, whenever you're trying to weld. You don't want to, supposed to grind off the galvanized surface, and that has some underneath that I can't grind off, so I'm just going to leave it. Most of these others are really shallow, so I don't think I'm going to worry about those so much. That really is going to make this back end good to go. So I'll take a look at the front and see what we need to do there. Okay, this end here, well, I did have these holes that I had drilled through to separate the A-pillar from the rest of it. What I found is there's a whole bunch of pinholes. You can see here on these edges, you can see where this light is shining through. Now these holes down here are okay. They're not a big concern. And these are okay, except for I don't like all the pinholes around it. So the plan is I will be cutting loose. I see even more pinholes over here now. So I'm going to cut off part of this and maybe remake some of it. Now the thing is, whenever you're looking at this stuff, I try to always go back with the same thickness of metal that was in here. And I measured this earlier, and it's right at about 50 thousandths. If I squeeze down on that, that's 50 thousandths. So I have some metal here that, although it shows a surface rust, that is nothing pitted, it is nothing bad, that'll clean right off. That is also 50 thousandths. So I can make any kind of patch that I need using this material right here. Or I may have something else laying around, but that is just available at the moment, so that's why I want to show that. So I'm going to probably cut this. Well, I mean, I could cut it just about anywhere. I just have to replicate the piece that I cut off. So let me look at this and make a cut. So you can see that's got some thinness to it. Now, I've mentioned this before whenever I do stuff like this. Many times if I have say a compound shape, in this case I've got this flat area here which extends over to this side and then it goes downhill. I will isolate those angles, meaning I can make this piece, I could make this piece if I wanted to, which I may just go ahead and do that. This flange I want to keep, that's good, but I think I'm going to cut off this and come way up in here, and then I can make that piece, and I'm not having to bend and try to manipulate different things. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Initially I just wanted to do this piece first and then this outer piece, and I decided, you know what, if I do that I'm going to end up with a weld here. It's not worth it. So I will take this and put it all the way over. I went underneath and I drew a line, and so basically I have this. You can see that line. I want to cut this a little bit wide, and then that will give me this full width. I can still cut this inside here like I want, cut it off up here, and cut along this edge, and then I have a weld on the edge, a short weld. This won't be cut actually. Well, yeah, it will be, sorry. Cut that and make this side push down to match that transition. So really I can make this piece right now and make it fit into this opening. The alternative would be I could cut this all the way off like here, and I can make another triangular piece in the center. So right now this is what I want to do, because I really can't make this metal stretch to fill that angle like I want. Okay, hopefully you can see this and you get what I'm getting at here. If I put this piece in place now, I drew a line roughly where this starts to bend down, and I brought that over to the inside of that flange. So now I can put this in place and basically draw that same line on top of the plate, right? That's my bend point, and then what I need to calculate out is how narrow it needs to be. And in this case, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. So what I want to do is I'll just eyeball that start point and then basically come up an angle from there back up to here to get that same start point. But what I need to see is where that line ends. So if I come to the back here and I draw this line, and I know I'm drawing lines all over the place, right? But I'm trying to make an example so you can see what I'm doing. Let's just say I put this on here and I followed this line, right? Just to give you that idea. So that mimics this top line here. I put this back up in place. I'm kind of eyeballing where that corner starts, and I'll come back up to here. So what I need to do, if this makes any sense, is cut out this triangle. This piece will bend down to match that angle, and of course this edge will weld over here, the front edge will weld here, and I can cut this piece out, and this should mimic that pretty closely. Hope that makes sense. Okay, maybe now you see what I'm talking about. I can take that, I can take this and bend it right where that line is. Creates kind of a split look to it, and I can adjust that until I get the angle that I need. Make sense? Now, a couple ways I can approach it. Again, I can blend these edges to make everything fit nice. I will be cutting off basically that exact same thing. I'm going to cut off this back edge, cut off that corner over here, and then cut this angle out. And all that should basically sit down in there pretty nice. I know it's hard to show you where I'm cutting, but I'm trying. Okay, so there's that angle piece. Talking with my mask. Luke, I am your father. Yeah. So, one little chunk of spot weld hanging on. Okay. Let's see how I did. I'd say that's pretty close. I have a little bit of trimming to do on this back side, and then it'll probably fit right in. Pretty close. I like it. Just a little more trimming on these edges, and it'll be ready to go. Okay. Now let me get that welded in. that's all welded in. I sanded it down, made everything smooth. I'm not too worried about the transitions down in here because it's not going to matter if it's a 90-degree corner or not. I'd rather have that built up a little and be strong. But overall, things lined up pretty good. Now this is still that piece of A-pillar that I left on there, and that'll come off later after I get comfortable with where it sits in the car. So, I don't know how well you can see all that. It's all nice and solid once again. What I need to do is verify that the forward piece, which should line up somewhere about there, that's all good. All good. Now there may be some, fine tuning when it gets on the car and I have to move it around a little bit, but that's where it's supposed to be. Now, the only other thing that I need to do, and this will be my template basically, is I need to identify these holes. And of course I can adjust those however I want. It's not going to matter. They just kind of have this random pattern. So I could very easily just show you where these are. But what I might do is put one out here just to even them out. And then I don't think there was any, there wasn't any up in this section, but I can definitely add some if I want to. And then the existing holes down here, so there's 3. I could even add one in the middle if I wanted to. I could add one here. It's not going to hurt to add a few more spot welds to all that. So I'll have to drill that up, and that'll come later. At this point, that's probably, other than doing some treatment to the rusted areas, there's really not much else I need to do. I'll grind these welds down. The problem I have at the moment is I had to order some Eastwood rust encapsulator. And the plan is, before it ever gets onto the main floor pan, is I treat this hole inside. Well, I'll treat the rust first, probably with like navel jelly, clean that out, and then coat the entire inside with the rust encapsulator just to seal everything up. So that's where it's at. Very happy with how it looks right now. So I thought I would give you a little bit of bonus footage here. These are the frame connectors, and I'll have to look the name again. I don't know if it's Spintech, but let me pull these out of the box so you can see what's going to be going on the car later. So this says Superior Metal Fabricators, Riverside, California, spintechmufflers.com. Now, this is a really neat design. And this is the one for the driver's side. And what's really cool about it is it has these little cutouts for the floor pan. Same thing here where the behind the floor support, it has this opening here, which is also in the floor support. It has this flange, which mates to the bottom of the transmission cross member. And then, of course, all the other flanges mate to the floor pan. Back here, same thing, floor pan. This should mimic all the transitions. And then this is your location where the spring eye is for the shackle, for the leaf spring, the forward mount point for the leaf spring. So all of this should wrap around the floor support and the rear torque box frame rail area. And I hope it fits as good as it looks. There's also in the box a little triangular bracket that goes right here that gets welded on. You can see the outline, I guess, to show you where it goes. But I've heard mixed results on these. And of course, it is a Dynacorn floor pan, so we don't know for sure how well this is going to fit. I'm not going to try to push this up there right now because I have too many things in the way. But I can show you that this forward section fits snugly around the Dynacorn floor support. And I mean, that's snug. And that's a good sign, but I hope the rest of it fits that well. But that'll come later on, so stay tuned for that. All right, I think that'll be the end of this video. Now, as I said, I still have some more work to do on the inside. I'm waiting on the rust encapsulator from Evercoat to arrive, so I will not attach it to the floor pan until I have coated the inside of all of that. I hope you found some useful information in this process. You know, a lot of times we tend to overthink what we can do to repair something, and it really can be quite simple if we just look at it from a different approach. And that's generally what I try to do with some of these odd angle type of things. And even I, as I was going through that, changed how I was approaching the repair. And I think it turned out pretty good. I'm very happy with it. So I also want to let you know that I don't know what kind of video will come out next week. I've mentioned it before on my live stream that I'm making a road trip, and part of that road trip is going to Ohio to pick up front fenders, NOS front fenders, for the 64 Studebaker Commander. That was my brother's car. And the seller may have some other parts that I can use, and maybe I can shoot some video there to help others, you know, find him and help him sell parts to anybody who may need them for their Studebaker project. So it should be a fun trip, I hope, and we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank my patrons for supporting me. That helps me so much. I can't tell you enough what that means, because YouTube in general, they don't care about what kind of effort or content that I'm putting out. They don't really support me, and it shows with the revenue declining. So without my patrons, I don't know where I would be in making these videos. So if you're interested in helping out, there is a Patreon link in the description below. It doesn't take much to join and be part of the process. Otherwise, I have affiliate links also down below that you can click on if you want to purchase any of the items that I've displayed on my videos, and you get a little bit of a discount, and I get a little tiny bit of a percentage back on that. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourself. See you. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Initially, I was just going to do a piece here and then a piece there. That gives me a line that I don't really want. I'd rather keep this a flat line all the way up and have a shorter, let's say not an overlapping. Okay, let me start over. Hold on a second.